Greetings and good day, Fearless Schools listening squad out there. It's Dr. Drew Tom, an educator with 30 years plus experience in the schoolhouse and current middle school principal. And as always, for this wonderful podcast brought to you by the Creative Leadership Solutions crew, I have the distinct privilege of being your conversational cruise ship captain as we sail on another voyage on the educational high seas. And also joining me on the podcast deck is the always fearless and always fantastic Director of Professional Learning at CLS, Dr. Ann McCarty. How are things going, Dr. Ann?
We get to do our own live today of someone who I listen to live all the time through, so I'm super excited.
Aha! Me too. Yes, indeed. Oh gosh, once again, listeners out there, I'm elated that you tuned into the Fearless School Shorts podcast today because we'll be talking to, as Dr. Ann alluded to, an educational leader and superhero, as we always do, to learn from them and learn about their heroic origin story, because every superhero has an origin story. Like, let's take Green Arrow. Remember that guy? He went sailing one day on his yacht, and then he crashed. He survived on a deserted island with just his wits and archery skills, and then he used those powers to fight crime when he got back to the big city. It's true, right? And so it's also true that every educator out there is a superhero, and everyone has an origin story, right? And we are who we are in the classroom, schoolhouse, district office right now because we were once students back in the day ourselves, and when we reflect on that past, we become better educators ourselves. So there you are. There you have it. Here we go. Okay, so get ready, buckle up. Today we are joined by an educational superhero whose work I've known for quite a minute or so, and it's work that, quite frankly, many of us have known for quite some time, and it's about time that we talk to him because he's awesome in the arena of educational leadership. All right, let's get specific about him. I'm not going to name him. We're going to get to that. This gentleman and scholar is a highly regarded urban educator in New Jersey for over 20 years. A master teacher and a transformational school leader. He was an elementary school teacher, I didn't know that, in East Orange, New Jersey, and he did such an amazing job that he was selected as the East Orange School District and Essex County Public Schools Teacher of the Year and New Jersey Teacher of the Year finalist, and then, as a middle school and high school principal. He emerged as a turnaround school leader, which included the turnaround of the mighty Newark Tech that went from a low-performing school in need of improvement to national recognition, including U.S. News and World Report magazine, recognizing it 3 times, not once, not twice, but 3 times, as one of America's best high schools, and also recognizing him and awarding him the coveted Milken Educator Award. He knows a thing or two about school leadership and climate and culture and much more, and he's been impacting schools for over 35 years by delivering over 3,000 conference and program keynotes, workshops, parenting seminars, and student assemblies. And in addition to writing several professional articles for popular education journals, he has authored 14 books, including his 7 ASCD bestsellers. Oh my gosh. And listen, he's got his newest book, What is My Value Instructionally to the Teachers I Supervise, which was recently released in December 2024. He's also the creator and the host of the popular Assistant Principals and New Principals Academy, which Ann just talked about, streamed live every Saturday morning on his AP and New Principals Academy YouTube channel at 10:55 Eastern Time. I'm assuming that's AM. And finally, in addition to all that, he's an all-around nice guy. So we're happy to have him aboard the Fearless Schools podcast. Listen, it's Principal Kafele. How it's going with you, Principal Kafele?
Man, everything is really good. I took 8 days off, which is something I don't typically do, but I did it now. I'm just feeling really, really good. This is the second day, and I'm feeling rejuvenated already.
Awesome. I could tell from the tone and the tenor of your voice that there's kind of a relaxed chill to it, which I respect and appreciate and applaud. So congratulations on that break that you're taking. Yeah. But listen, we're going to take advantage of that time and ask you some questions because we got to know the behind the scenes behind Principal Kafele. First one is, with all those accolades, all that work that you do, something has to sustain you. And that has to be food, right? We want to find out about that. What's your favorite food in times of challenge and in comfort?
It's really all things seafood.
Oh,
whether it be fresh fish, shellfish, whatever. I'm just all things seafood. That's my thing.
Awesome.
Now I kind of have to eat it more than I did before my heart attack.
Oh,
but I was loving seafood anyway. So
okay.
Is there a favorite in the seafood family? Like, does it? Is it in the fish form? Does it crawl sideways?
These days, it's probably the fresh fish sway. I tend to love that, love the way my wife cooks it, and the shellfish, kind of pretty much all of them. It's a tie, I don't have a preference of one over the other.
There you go.
The dish that has all of them together is the best one.
And we're happy that you're not selfish about the shellfish. There you
Glad
go.
to be.
And then we're happy that you're not selfish with your time, because we're happy to have you on board today. We're not going to scale back. See, I keep bringing in the fish metaphors. We're not going to scale back the conversation at all. So until we get to the finish line, listen, your origin story. We want to start with that. What kind of student were you, and what, or perhaps even who, helped you learn? Who inspired you?
Yeah, my origin story is the reason that I've been doing this work for as long as I have. I was a good elementary school student. But going into middle school, and some things were happening in my space. And it forced, we can call it traumatic experiences, and it forced my wheels to fall off. So to make a very long story short, I attended 4 different high schools over a period of 5 years and graduated in 5 years with less than a 1.5 GPA. I failed everything. I don't even know that I had the credits to graduate. I think they just didn't want to bring me back for year 6. So I failed everything. And then the 5 years after graduation, I did nothing. So I went 10 years of nothingness in my life.
Wow.
And then decided that I needed to do something, but I didn't know what that something was going to be. So I asked my mother for advice. What do I do? I'm 23 years old and I've got nothing. And she said, why don't you go to college? And that really wasn't a place I wanted to be. But she said it. I said, well, let's see if I can get in somewhere, which I did, Kane University here in Jersey. But then what do I study, Mom?
Right.
And she suggested marketing. And I said, okay, you tell me what it is. She did. And I went on and got a 4-year degree in marketing, but I graduated summa cum laude.
Oh, wow.
And that surprised a lot of people. So in terms of this being an origin story,
Yeah.
it shocked a lot of people because no one saw it coming. But I read a book, which we won't get deep into because of time, but it was entitled The Miseducation of the Negro, written by the founder of Black History Month, Dr. Carter G. Woodson.
Yep.
So that book literally steered me into education. It said, I don't want anything to do with marketing in terms of corporate America. I want to be a classroom teacher.
Right.
So I'm saying all that to say this: from that first day teaching in 1988 to today, July 2nd, 2025, I've never classified my work as professional. Right? I know it's professional work.
Right.
But that's not the way I view it. That's not the way I approach it. I approach it as this is personal, because there are young Principal Kafeles sitting in classrooms all over America with the potential and the capacity to live their lives on their own terms, doing whatever it is they want to do, such as what I do. But for whatever reason, we haven't been successful in helping that young Principal Kafele to tap into his or her greatness so that I can then build on it, and become who I was born to become. So had I not had that reset and the epiphany, I doubt seriously I'd be on this call with you two right now having this conversation.
Right.
So that's my origin story. That is my fuel.
Yeah.
It keeps me going. It keeps me fired up, because every time I'm in front of those audiences, I remind folks that you have young Principal Kafeles in your school. What does that mean? That kid, there's someone is written off, but that same kid standing on this platform, on this stage, talking to you about how you can become better at your craft.
There you go.
So I'm curious, how many times have you gone back and read that book?
It's,
What you don't see is
For our listening audience, he's pulling it off of the bookshelf.
Only you see it, but I keep it close to the vest. It's it's an old copy. I don't let anybody touch it. There's a million. It's in public domain. So anybody can publish it, and anybody does publish it. There's a zillion quote unquote publishers of this book, but I have one of the original copies, and I've read it many times. I keep referring to it. That's why it's not on the shelf. That's why it's sitting, outside of the books that are shelved, because I need to be able to put my hands on it always.
Yeah, I could tell the cover was well worn. I could see
Yeah,
that for
written
sure.
in
You,
1933.
yep. Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned your own epiphany and your own turnaround within yourself. But I think another feather in the cap with that moment is that you had the courage to ask somebody for help.
Yeah,
You turn to your mom and ask for help. How important is that, to have somebody in your life that you can turn to talk to about stuff, and in terms of your own personal growth, but also about school administrators, like how important is it to be able to talk to someone and share out those concerns and stuff like that?
it's vitally important because leadership, any genre of leadership, but in our case, school leadership, district leadership, it's lonely.
Hmm.
And I tell APs, don't think that however successful you may be as an assistant principal, don't think that that's what it's going to be when you're principal, because you're in a different world when you're an AP. You're in a
Yeah.
different space. You're not alone,
Hmm.
right? But when you become that principal, there's only one of you in the
Right.
building. Right. So now if someone in
Yeah.
your build, someone on your team, your assistant principal, for example, makes an egregious error and it embarrasses the district, right? Or it's just a bad mistake. Superintendent's not necessarily going to that AP. They're coming to you, the principal, to find out what happened, right? And holding you accountable for making sure it doesn't happen
Yep.
again. So you got to have people that you can lean on. But as I always say on my own platform, it's always best when you've got someone that really understands your work, because you can have somebody who's very empathetic, very
Hmm.
sympathetic, that you can put your shoulder on and explain, your misery, your challenges, your obstacles, pressures, demands, etc. And they may give you some stuff that comforts you, but they may not really understand it.
Hmm.
Right. For me, the only one that's really going to understand my challenges when I was a principal is another principal. Just like the challenges as a speaker are overwhelming,
Hmm.
right? But the lay person, they're like in their mind, like, wait a minute, you're making all this money and you flying around on planes and staying in really? So that person's not the one. It's the one that also is home away from home all the time, living out of a garment bag or a suitcase and all that kind of
Right.
thing. That's the one that'll understand. So if you're gonna have somebody to lean on, it's got to be someone that thoroughly understands what it is you do.
Absolutely. So yeah, with that in mind, Lynn, what makes a great administrative team? Because as a principal myself right now, I can say that I'm very honored, very fortunate to work with an outstanding assistant principal. But those kind of change, those, it takes time. It takes time to grow and stuff like that. So what are the characteristics of a great administrative team from your
Yeah,
standpoint that you've seen?
I love the question, and it's interesting. The new book that you reference,
Hmm.
when I wrote it, there's a chapter on the administrative leadership team,
Ah.
and it became the longest chapter in the book. And now when I try to do the workshop, I literally need 30 hours,
Hmm.
right? I need 5 full days to unpack this small chunk called the maximizing the administrative leadership team. So I'm gonna try to give you the short answer.
Yeah.
The short answer is, a while back I Googled how often do NFL coaches meet, right? How often do NFL coaches meet?
Okay. Okay.
And it said during the season, 7 days a
Hmm.
week. They can work up to 90 hours. I said, wow. So they're meeting, and I don't mean meeting with the team. I mean meeting with one another, not the 90 hours, but they're meeting 7 days a week. I said, okay, well, the reason I Googled that, because I was thinking about school leaders
Yeah.
and how often they meet as an administrative team.
Right.
And it's normal for me whenever I'm out on the road. It's one of my staple questions. Hey, principal, how often does your team meet?
Yeah.
Hey, AP, how often does your team meet? And the normal answer, there are various answers, but the one that really stands out is the one that says, maybe once every other week.
Mm.
Once once every other week is the normal one. So I'm saying, like, okay, so the NFL team is meeting 7 days a week, the coaches, for a game that the clock is ticking for only 60 minutes.
Right.
Right. So the non fans in the room, I let them know the game may be on for 3 hours, but they're not playing for 3 hours. The 2 other hours is timeouts, commercials, etc. They're only playing for an hour, but they're meeting all week for something that will happen in 60 minutes max. So how are you with a class? A block can be 90 minutes, and that's just one block during the day. And you mean you let all them blocks and all those periods transpire, and now you're going to have a meeting
Yeah.
for an hour once a week, and everything that happens in a school is not instruction is the most important thing, but it's not the only thing. There's so many other things happening in a school. I can go to culture,
Yeah.
right? So safety. There's so many things, and we're not talking about it.
Hmm.
And then we scratch our heads. We're the think tank of the building, and we scratch our heads wondering why aren't we where we want to be. So therefore, to answer the question, one of the most important things are how often do we come together to talk substantively, not just come together, but to talk substantively about the very unique needs of our school and how we plan to overcome those needs. But if we're not talking to one another, we're just talking in the hallway when we pass each other, we're standing together in the cafeteria, all that. We're not doing what the NFL does for a 60-minute game, right? Whereas I say to everybody every day, I love the NFL. I can't wait for the season to begin. However, the NFL does not compare to the work that we do. It does not.
Right.
It pales in comparison. It's a good outlet for a fan, but what we do, and we're not talking. So that matters. We got to be talking, but not just to talk. It's got to be substantive. That what comes out of that meeting is solution
Right.
for tomorrow morning.
And to always have the end zone in mind, right? Like they're always,
Right. The end
when
zone,
you're talking,
winning.
it's got to be about the win. It's got to be success. It's got to be goal. So it can't just be, yes, it's nice to have chat to get connected and relationships and stuff like that, but it's always got to be goal oriented. Oh my gosh, that's a great reminder.
No participation trophies.
No,
Right.
exactly.
Despite high school days, I was an athlete because I was good. They let me play with all them F's, right? So I brought that mentality into my classroom, and I brought it into the school that I'm about winning.
Yeah.
I'm just not about second place, right? I'm not about third place. I'm about championship, right? Trophy, belt, cup, whatever,
Right.
So that's the mentality that I want to bring to a team.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, you said a couple of things that kind of that hit with me is that winning thing with we're in a game, right? It's a game, and people don't play games to lose.
Right.
If they do, then they probably shouldn't be in that game.
That's right.
And one of our colleagues, middle school principal, always tells his staff to chase greatness.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a part of the winning mentality. No matter what we're doing, we have to be winning.
Yep.
Chasing greatness, striving to achieve the impossible. So whatever the world said we can't do, that's the goal.
Yep. And there's always the adage of, well, there's no I in team, but there's I in win. And there's got to be at least one person ready to propel us in the right direction towards that win. Oh my gosh, I'm already filled with just a enlightened attitude. And you know what? I'm going to take that word attitude, because that's something, in addition to just being a leadership expert. The word attitude is all around you, right? So what does it mean for those people who are not familiar with your work? What does it mean to close the attitude gap in our schools, and why is that such a critical topic now in particular? So you have that attitude gap. Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, it's from the day I walked into that first school in Brooklyn, New York City in 1988. The principal was talking about closing the achievement gap. And I had been exposed to too much Carter G. Woodson that I referenced before and others to get caught up into that conversation. So I was tainted.
Okay.
So then when I came on back home to Jersey and continued to teach, they're still talking achievement gap. And in my mind, because of the way that I was conditioned from my reading, I said, that is not the issue. It's not about achievement, because the children are brilliant. They're extraordinary. They're phenomenal. They're amazing, but they don't necessarily know that, right? Or realize that. So my emphasis was always, before I started talking about attitude gap, my emphasis was always, I've got to transform the attitude. I would say to myself, what are the variables that you cannot control, and what are the variables you can control? Well, their home environment, I couldn't control it nor influence it. Their community environment, I couldn't control nor influence either. I said, well, what do you have influence over? I said, the classroom, that room that has my name on the door. The attitudes of the youngsters that walk in, I have influence over that. So I said, that's where I'm going to focus. I'm going to convince my students, my 21 students, that they are phenomenal. And as I convince them that they're phenomenal and convince them of their academic greatness, I said the content will take care of take care of itself. So I began to say, change the attitude, and the content will take care of itself. So that was my focus. And hence, when you read off in that bio that I was teacher of the year, that was in my 4th year, right, as a teacher. So I was still a baby. So because I was shifting attitudes, and therefore making the work simplified for the young people. So then I started saying attitude gap. I said, that's what this is. And I defined it. I said, the gap between those students who have the will to achieve excellence and those who do not. So I spent an entire career, 7 as a teacher, 14 as a principal, on focusing on the will of the students, while the teachers probably focused on the will and the skill, because that's the conversation we were having. But for me, in terms of my relationships with young people, not so much what I'm doing behind the scenes, but my relationship, I'm focusing on their will. So I'm getting young people excited about themselves, 3 things: themselves, the learning, and the prospects for their future. I said, if I can get them fired up about the person in their mirror, get them fired up about learning new information, and get them fired up about the prospects for their future, I said, we're going to do some things. And hence, that will close this attitude gap. But I looked at the teachers as well. Got to mention this one piece. And I said, the attitude gap does not stop with the students. I said, I got to look at staff. And I said, the gap between those educators who have the will to be amazing at their craft and those who do not. So once again, I'm looking at staff, and I'm asking the question: are we believers in the possibilities of the children that we serve every day, or are we looking at youngsters, or some youngsters, and I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. But the full circle moment is, well, that one you said you don't know about, that's young Principal Kafele, right? That I keep making reference to everywhere I go in America. That's young Principal Kafele. Right, you cannot rule this one out. Right, this one might be the one. Right, so make sure that you don't count anybody out in that classroom, in that school, because you don't know what circumstances are going to change, not his reality or her reality outside of school, but his or her thinking, his or her attitude, so that now I can begin to spread my wings and soar.
Oh my goodness gracious. I want to like take that moment of just that piece of the conversation, lift it out, and like put it in a big sign somewhere. Cause that's it. That's exactly it. And I see that on a day-to-day in my own building. And I see, it's interesting. I have a 6 through 8 building, and there are students I care about, obviously all my students. The ones that sit in my heart the most oftentimes are the ones that come in as bright shining lights in 6th grade, because 6th graders have this kind of unflappable energy and just enthusiasm. And then something happens 7th and 8th grade where the embers of their motivation become, instead of distinguished, they become extinguished. And why do you think that happens to kids as they matriculate through school, where they should be gaining more knowledge and more confidence? What is it, either about the school or the school system, that snuffs it out instead of stoking it? What do you think?
Yeah. I got a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, please.
Particularly in the environment upon which I worked as a middle school principal for 8 years. My situation was compounded by the fact that we were 3 schools within one building.
Okay.
So when I say 3 schools, I mean 3 separate administrations, 3 separate staffs, separate student bodies, and divided by a door, right? And if those three are not on the same page, then it's going to have implications for all schools. And the three of us were in three different worlds. So here's my point as it goes to the question. I'm looking at sixth graders coming in innocent on the one hand, but I'm also looking at, and again, I'm talking from an urban lens, right? Inner city lens. But I'm also looking at sixth graders coming in from different schools, and now they're amongst youngsters that they don't know. So they're coming in raw, they're coming in new, they're coming in innocent, but they're also coming in knowing that I've got to jockey for position with this new group of students that I don't know. So we got that going on. But then they get to seventh grade, and they've established themselves. But these subcultures and counterculture starts kicking in. And now there are other things that are prioritized that are important to me. And simultaneously, I don't necessarily see the correlation between max effort in school academically and how that translates to what I can achieve in life later on. Like for example, a lot of my kids over those years, and when I taught, because I taught fifth grade, a lot of those kids, they're in school hearing us selling this thing called education. But then they're going home, and it's not to paint with a broad brush, but it's to paint with a broad enough brush that it's relevant. You got kids going to first neighborhood, and I don't see the evidence of what you're talking about. I see it in you all, the teachers, and you, the principal. But when I go back to my world, because this school is not my world, right? So when I go back to my world, I'm not seeing this thing you keep pushing on me every day for 180 days. And then when I walk a few more steps into my home, I don't see it there either. So this thing that you keep selling, where I got to learn this history that was hundreds of years ago, if not thousands, or this science that seemingly has no relevance to my life, nor this mathematics, right? Why does this matter when I don't see people within my orbit who have benefited from it? So what I had to do to counter that, I had to go out into the community and go fishing. And I had to fish for people of all walks of life. I couldn't wait for spring for the career day. That was too late. I said, I have to make a career day every Monday of the school year. Right. So now every Monday I've got somebody in that building. And some people don't like this, but this is how I roll. I got my guys together and I got my young ladies together. I don't have them in the same room because there's some things that I want to have a conversation with my guys, either me or my guests, that I don't want my girls to hear. Right. And some things I want women to be able to come and talk to my girls about certain things that I don't want my boys, I don't want my guys to hear. Right. So I separate them that way. If your sexual orientation, whatever you identify with, that's who you're with, and we ain't even got to go no further with it. We good, right? And that's 2011 times when it was much more complicated than it is now, right? So now we're having these conversations and we're hitting these kids in ways that they're not being hit, because essentially they're being engaged in the kind of conversations that stereotypically would be held at home with, say, if I got the room full of men, then this is what your father would be talking to you about. But 85 to 90% of my boys are not going home to a father. So therefore, who's engaging them in that conversation that distinguishes a male from a man? So they were having that conversation, and now I can channel that and leverage that for youngsters to have that focus through 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, because they're getting messaging on top of the academics. If it's just academics, then I'm going to lose them. But if I can give them life messages, and not just sometimes sporadically, but it's an inherent part of what we do, that they receive these life messages growing up in some of these tough neighborhoods. Now we increase the probability that we're connecting with them, and that ultimately they can move on and do the things that they were born to do. They can maximize their potential. But we had to sift through all that stuff.
No,
that stuff is real.
It is. And it goes all the way back to your love of seafood. Like, because you said you had to go fishing. The fish aren't going to come to you. to help
That's
out
right.
your students. You got to go out
There you
there and
go.
cast a line and go out there with a big net and catch
That's
the
it.
people who are going to help your students. Because as an English language arts guy, I look at education through a story lens. And sometimes our students and our scholars get trapped in a narrative about themselves, and they see themselves as a minor character in the story of school, a minor character in their own life. So how do we help them see themselves as major characters in the story of their own future?
There you
You know
go.
what I mean?
There,
So
there you go.
as an educational superhero, and I know you might not think of yourself in that regard, but you do. You've got a cape on, you're doing all the good work. What are your superpowers that help you do that work? And then on the other side of that, what's your kryptonite? What is a challenge for you?
Yeah, the superpowers are easy, and I'll preface that by saying I have to be very careful when I'm training a principal one-on-one or AP one-on-one because everything's not transferable. Right. You got to look at your skill set. You got to look at who you are, your worldview. And I try to get to know that person that I'm training so that I can make sure that I make offer the right solutions to them. So here's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Again, I'm urban. I'm in the city. I'm low achieving schools, dysfunctional, all that kind of stuff. And then we're going to perform some miracles there. But in doing so, when I walk into that building initially in those formative years, I'm going to have that microphone and I'm going to be talking to those kids on a regular basis,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because my superpower is the ability to inspire them.
Mm-hmm.
My superpower is the ability to encourage them. My superpower is the ability to empower them through words. I know that. So as you've probably heard me say publicly, because I'm sure I said it when we were at that AMLA, no day starts without the principal's message. No day. There'll
Mm-hmm.
never be a day. And that microphone will never be delegated to somebody else. Right. I'll give you anything. I'll give you the shirt off my back before I give you my
There you
microphone.
go.
Right. So that's mine. So I'm gonna give them the most powerful, inspiring message every single morning. But then every first day of the month, so that means for 10 months, I got them in the auditorium or the gym, and that's my time until I deem I'm finished. And now, because I also want to be interactive with them, I want them to be able to talk to me. But then I got the Young Men's Empowerment Program where just got the guys that I just referenced, and we're in there. So I've got all these opportunities and others that I just don't want to keep bombarding you with that. But I've got others, and I'm talking to them. I'm talking to them. And I'm talking to them. And when I hear kids say to me, "Man, Mr. Kafele makes me feel that I can fly," right? Then I say, I'm reaching them. When I got the whole student body, man, Mr. Kafele, that man makes me think I can do anything. That's my
Right.
superpower. Now the teacher will come to me, man, you making my life so much easier. Yeah, because I'm going here,
Right.
attitude, so that now you can hit the skill. So that's my thing.
Yeah.
That's yeah,
Yeah. No, I mean,
yeah.
what you're,
Always as a teacher, same thing.
yeah, exactly right. That communication, that's what I wrote down. Communication with extra seasoning on it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
anybody can just
yeah.
put a message out, but you understand the
Right.
importance of making sure that steak sizzles when it hits the plate.
That's right.
It's
There you go.
so important. And
Love how you just said it. That's that English major in you.
well, and
You can tell I wasn't an English major.
hey, there you go. I mean, I'm no Shakespeare, but I could anyway. And it also makes me think about a lot of people toss around the acronym of MTSS right now, right? Like multi-tiered systems of support.
Yep.
But what you've just talked about as your superpower is you understand that people need to hear a message at different levels. Some people are going to get it that first time
Yep.
in a large group setting. Some people need to have a boys empowerment group. They need to hear it another way and another message in a closer group, and then one-on-one as well, whether it's students or staff. So I think that's definitely a superpower for sure for you.
Yeah.
On the
Yeah.
other side, what's your kryptonite? What challenges you besides when there's
Yeah.
not a seafood restaurant nearby?
Yeah. In terms of the work,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. What challenges you?
Yeah. It's there's quite a few, but the one that really stands out for is a master schedule, and you probably weren't expecting that.
Dr. Ann, this
Yeah.
is your
It's
world. Get ready.
yeah.
Let's
I
hear
know.
it.
I don't want to use the word can't, but that'll keep me up at night because I know what I want. See, when I was a middle school principal, that master schedule was on the principal, right?
It should be.
But as I grew in this business, and with growth comes wisdom, I said, wait a minute. I have some very smart people on my staff who are much smarter than me, right? I'm not the smartest one in the building. And the day I say I am is the day I need to get out of this business, right? So I got these smart people who are rocking with me, right? My team is with me. Why am I not tapping into these folks, especially the math folks? Because see, in terms of conceptualizing the schedule, I know what I want in a schedule. I just can't put it together. I can't make it work across a school. Hey, math teacher, I've been spending all summers with this from June to like right at the end of August to get this right. Can you take a look at this? Just look at it. I'm not asking you to do it. Just take a look at this 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Just look at it and tell me what you think, what you could do. Math teacher takes it home and comes back. Here you go, Kafele. It's done. What do you mean?
Right.
It's done. What, done? What you done? It can't be done. It's done. This. See, the brain works differently than mine. So I told him what I need. Like I need math in the morning, that type of thing. It's done.
Right.
So I had to learn to tap into others. So when I got into high school and that schedule fell back on me again, but now it's much more complicated. Hey, somebody, because I won my staff over early. Take a look at this, please.
Right.
And again, it's done. We good. You know, of course, now we got automation as opposed to everything was on paper and pencil, and but they made it work. That's anybody that's worked with me and they want to find flaws with me, to Chris, hey, Kafele, that schedule.
We can talk schedules anytime, Kafele. We can
Oh,
talk
yeah?
schedules anytime.
Yeah.
That's your thing, huh?
That is my superpower, is scheduling.
Wow. Not me. I'm scared of it.
Because I truly believe that we can accomplish all things through a good schedule.
I believe that too.
It touches everybody in the
That's
building.
why I spent 3 months on it, trying to make it work.
But
it affects everybody.
yeah, and it's your educational philosophy in action. You know, like it's beyond it's beyond the abstract notions of educational theory. It's what you're actually living, that educational philosophy and promise. So yeah, Principal Kafele, you don't even know what you just did with Dr. Ann. She is ready to nerd out on the master schedule stuff. Yeah, but no, that's it. Listen, that is a weakness for me as well. Conceptually, vision wise, mission wise, culture, climate, I'm all in it. Thankfully, my assistant principal that I work shoulder to shoulder with is like, anyways, it's very important work.
It's its own little language.
It is a different, it is.
Like there are some of us that speak that language and there are some that do not, and it's totally fine. And no offense, Drew, but I have found that like the ELA and the social studies people, they're not as strong as the math and music people at scheduling. It just, as a gross generalization, not to offend any of our listeners, if you're an ELA person and like, I love schedules, but it just tends to go that way. At least what I see.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
No, thank you, Dr. Ann. I'm not offended by that at all. I don't think. I did hear the word gross in there, but I think you were talking about something. Anyways, so listen, Principal Kafele, before we exit the show today, any final words for our audience? Any other enlightening illuminations of wisdom? What do you got?
You know, I'm a mirror guy. Anybody that's seen me before, they've never seen me without a mirror in my hand.
Okay.
And that just symbolizes the game film in sports. There's no such thing as winning if you're not watching your own film and watching the film of the opponent. It's just not going to happen. So I say to folks who will hear this recording, make sure that you are setting aside time to self-reflect every day. But within that self-reflection, make sure that there's time for self-assessment. You don't have time to wait for your evaluator of record to inform you of your effectiveness, because you're in there every day, and that evaluation may be twice a year, right? 3 times max. So make sure that you are self-reflecting, self-assessing toward self-adjustment, right? You got to make the adjustment, and you got to journal all this, right? You got to have a running record, right? So self-adjustment with the goal of being self-improvement, right? You're not trying to be Superman, Superwoman tomorrow.
Right.
You just want to grow incrementally every day, but you want to go through the process, the steps of self-reflection, self-assessment, self-adjustment, self-improvement, while never losing sight of your self-preservation.
Oh my gosh.
Self-care.
Oh my.
They matter.
Wow.
Yeah, you gotta preserve you.
Words to live by, Drew Tomlin.
Oh my goodness gracious. Woo! Yeah, I mean, all superheroes are capable, right?
Yeah.
But if Clark Kent always was in the telephone booth, where would we be?
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. I love that.
Listen,
that's as the young people say, that was a bar. That was a bar.
I got him. Well, you inspired it. You inspired anything that you listen. Principal Kafele, listen, we want to thank you so much. You helped us take our Fearless School Shorts podcast from first gear to Mach speed with no problem and no hassle from you. You know, I'm not surprised. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy life to chat with us and share your educational leadership wisdom. And hey, Fearless Schools podcast, you know what? You did it, right? You opened your eyes, your ears, and your hearts and spent a little time with us. And, you know, that's quite an accomplishment. So there's no off switch on your awesome machine either. So bravo. And thank you, Dr. Ann, for being here this morning as well. And listen, audience, don't be modest about your accomplishments. Go around town and tell the world about this podcast listening accomplishment. Put Principal Kafele's AP and New Principals Academy on your Saturday morning streaming calendar. Subscribe to the Fearless Schools podcast. Visit Creative Leadership Solutions at www.creativeleadership.net and to put all of those ingredients in the recipe of your awesome sauce and share it with your friends, your frenemies, neighborhood postal carrier, disgruntled pen pals, school pals, whoever, wherever. So there you go. This is Dr. Drew Tomlin, keeping it short, keeping it sweet on the bright road ahead. Thank you again, Principal Kafele.
Thank you.